This is BBC Two. Now a budget statement by the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Good evening. In today's budget, I continue to lock in economic stability. We all remember what happened to the economy in the late 1980s and the early 90s. Inflation out of control, interest rates at 15%, and I remember how many hard-working families lost homes, lost jobs, and lost their businesses. So since becoming Chancellor, I've been determined that we will not return to boom and bust. And because of the choices we've made, we now have the lowest inflation for 30 years, the lowest long-term interest rates for 35 years, and the lowest unemployment since 1975. But I'll never take this hard-won stability for granted. When we came to office, Britain was spending more on debt interest payments than on schools. So again this year, I reduced this debt from the past. Today, I repaid £34 billion. More debt repaid by one British government in 1 year than all the total debt repaid by all the previous British governments of the past 50 years. As a result, by next year, we'll be spending £10 billion more on Britain's schools than on Britain's debt. So the stability we've built is our foundation for building opportunity and prosperity for all. There's still much to do, and in this budget, we take a balanced approach. Because we've cut debt, lowered unemployment, and the economy is growing, we can make new long-term investments that are prudent, and new affordable tax cuts for hard-working families. And when the story of Britain is of families struggling to do their best by their children, to balance work and family life, it is time for a budget whose focus is families, a budget that puts families first. Now, when we came to office, families with children had incomes 30% lower than families without children. So we made the largest ever rise in child benefit, stage by stage increasing it from £11 to £15.50 a week. And today we're taking the next step. The new children's tax credit will be available to 5 million families with children whose main earner has an income of up to £41,000. For most families, the children's tax credit will be worth £10 a week. That's £520 a year. And you'll see it in your pay packets next month. And I also announced that for the first year of a child's life, the children's tax credit will be even higher, £20 a week, over £1,000 a year. And I recognise that some mothers want to stay at home, and stay at home longer after the child is born. Maternity pay has not kept pace with earnings. Today, in the biggest rise in 40 years, I announced we are increasing maternity pay from £60 to £100 a week. And we've increased the time for which it will be paid from 18 to 26 weeks. And we're also introducing 2 weeks paid leave for new fathers, set at the same level of £100. To make work pay, we've raised the minimum wage. To reward work and help all families, the first £1,880 of your taxable income will now be taxed not at the basic rate of 22p, but at a lower 10p rate. 7.5 million pensioners will now pay no tax or tax at just that 10p rate. Pensioners will benefit from the winter fuel payment and free television licences for the over 75s. And because I'm determined that pensioners will share fully in our economic growth, in April, pensions will be increased even faster than earnings, by £5 a week for single pensioners, £8 a week for pensioner couples. We've cut fuel duty by an amount we could afford, 2p per litre, and we've cut licence fees for 5 million cars. Our targeted tax cuts are for hard-working families, and I've rejected unaffordable tax cuts that would make it impossible to invest in our public services. You know, it takes time to improve our public services, but in today's budget, I announced an extra £300 million to fight crime and drugs and recruit more police. And I announced an extra £1 billion for schools, with money paid direct to the head teacher in every local primary and secondary school to improve teaching in the classroom. I announced an extra £1 billion for the NHS, with new payments direct to local hospitals and to GP surgeries. The budget provides a new fund to help recruit frontline staff, like teachers and nurses. So we have made our choice. More investment, not less. Stability, the foundation. Tax cuts, we can afford. Schools and hospitals first. I believe this is the right long-term choice for Britain.
That was a budget statement by the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Andrew Neil and his guests discuss the day in Parliament. Dispatch Box is here on BBC Two at